Hello, listeners. This is Monica Wright, Nera Jenkins on Facebook. This is Keeping It Real Estate, Community Development Empowerment. Today, we are going to look at where we have been, 1963, the state of the Negro. And why is it we're on the dawn of 2023 and we are repeating the same generational mistakes over and over again? And look at why the impact of our errors is getting bigger and bigger. And what can we do about it? Beautiful people, I want you to join the tribe of elders. We meet after every podcast in the Thought Salon, taking thought to action. Since 2014, we have successfully bought property, sold property, housed, offered mortgages, loaned, fed, and employed our community. We are a nationwide organization of doers who support and finance each other. For $5 salon entry fee, become a part of a nationwide movement for change and let us help you with your personal dreams and community aspirations. Click here. We need you. Again, I am Monica Wright. I am a realtor of over 30 years, having been licensed in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey, primarily working in the city of Philadelphia. I am the founder of the Association of Child Daycare Providers, a 22-year-old social service agency that has provided over 100,000 free meals to our children every summer in the city of Philadelphia. Our topic today, 1963. It was a special year. It was the year I was born, but I did some research into what was going on then. As I look back on how our society has matured, I wanted to take an in-depth look at how did we get here. Now, I'm going to refer you to some YouTube videos that I checked out, and I started by just Googling 1963. What was going on? So I came across 6 great Black Americans on 1963 primetime TV. It's an amazing dialogue. Just type that into YouTube. 6 great Black Americans on 1963 primetime TV. An amazing dialogue. The second video that I reviewed was The Government Built Public Housing. What a Disaster, Chicago, 1964. Now, let me tell you why I was very interested in these videos. When I was in my 20s, back at a time when the elders mentored young people, took them under their wing, one of the first elders that I encountered, among many, was a gentleman named Drayton S. Bryant. And at the time, I was in my 20s, and he ran an organization called the Philadelphia Co-op Housing Center. And my dream was to create co-op housing for single parents. So that was a big thing. You can look up YouTube videos that talk about the destruction of the Black family. There was a huge explosion of teen pregnancy at a time when you know and I know our parents hid unmarried pregnancies, illegitimate pregnancies, whatever words they had for you weren't married, you got pregnant, you had a baby. Now, I grew up with 2 older sisters. They were 8 and 10 years older than me. And, I remember a situation where my sister got herself in a situation and my parents straightened it out. So it was something that before my time wasn't talked about. But, as I came into my 20s, here we go again, this deterioration of our society, our cultural norms, whether it's good or bad. You know, a baby doesn't ask to come here. So every child deserves to be taken care of. But our community became inundated for whatever reasons with men that were not marrying the mother of their children and mothers having to raise these children on their own. So my passion when I started to work for Drayton Bryant, and I was a volunteer, was to create co-op housing. So he invited me to his organization, and this was something that he was passionate about. If you research Drayton S. Bryant, because evidently there's two Drayton Bryants on the internet. I was really surprised. There's a young black man that is named Drayton Bryant, and I thought that was such a unique name that I would only find the Drayton Bryant that I worked under. So don't get confused. There is Drayton S. Bryant. He ran the Philadelphia Co-op Housing Center, but he had this great history where he had been instrumental in creating one of the first housing projects in the city of Los Angeles, the Ramona Gardens. And I'm going to get back to the research that I did on the Ramona Gardens. But Drayton S. Bryant, God bless his soul, he was a fountain of wisdom. And he told me things that I didn't understand until now. You know, here I am, about to be 60 years old. And he told me some great things. You know, I don't think he invented this line, but what he told me was the best way to help poor people is to not be one of them. And at the time I worked for him, I was deeply entrenched in I'm a single parent and I'm a poor, low-income single parent. And Drayton Bryant took me to the Philadelphia Ethical Society, and he got funding so that we could buy 2 huge mansions on the 3100 block of Burks Street in Strawberry Mansion. They were owned by a lady named Alice Jackson. She owned 3 or more properties in that area. She had no interest in living in them. There was squatters in one. And Drayton Bryant took myself and several other single parents, and we went to the Philadelphia Ethical Society, and we were granted $3,500 to purchase 2 3-story mansions in Strawberry Mansion, which is a section of the city of Philadelphia. And he stood by us. He got us renovation money. This was approximately 1988. I'm sorry, 1986. And we were on the dawn or the cusp of the crack epidemic. So we didn't know it was about to hit Philadelphia, but that's what happened. The crack epidemic spread through Philadelphia right when we got these buildings. And I remember it was about 14 of us. And, you know, we took this pretty iconic picture on the porch of the houses. And I remember I was holding my son, Austin, at that time. I had 2 children, and he was a newborn. And Drayton stood by us, got us renovation money. But what was happening was every time we installed something, the neighbors came and stole it right out of the house. I'll never forget. I had a car and I had a bike. And one day when we were fixing on the houses in Strawberry Mansion, I parked my car and I had a friend watch my son, and no, it's backwards. What happened was I was going to drive my car somewhere, and I chained my bike to a refrigerator in the building. And back then, there were still, I don't know if you remember the big fat belly refrigerators with the pull down clutch. Okay. So you didn't have a handle to pull. You had this huge clutch that came down like a lever, and it opened up the fat belly refrigerator. And it had a permanent hoop that I chained my bike to the refrigerator because we had so many thefts. And I don't even think we knew what was going on with the crack cocaine situation. But I chained my bike. I drove my car somewhere. I came back. You're not going to believe it. I walked into the apartment in the building, and someone had stolen the whole door off of the refrigerator, including my bike. So that is just an example of what we went through. And eventually, we abandoned the project. We turned the properties over to Dignity and Fairness for the Homeless. And for several years, quite a few homeless people lived in the property. I went on with my life. The house was never completed to the point where women and children could have comfortably moved into the property. And just to shorten the story, Drayton Bryant, he passed away in April 2008. And he was a wonderful man, full of wisdom. One of my other mentors was the Reverend Olivia Sneed. Sadly, she passed away in around 2008 also. And my apologies. Drayton Bryant passed away in 2007. Reverend Olivia Sneed passed away in 2008. Now, Reverend Olivia Sneed, I was her personal assistant, and she was pretty old back then, and she was a maverick of a woman. Okay. I met her because her relatives lived on my block, on the 1400 block of North 60th Street in West Philly. And she was one of those prominent, high yellow, distinguished ladies. The Reverend Olivia Sneed was something. She went viral before going viral was defined. And it was an adventure working for her. She had purchased a parcel of land. I never saw whether the building was still there. I never visually saw it, but I did all the financial and real estate papers for it. And it was a place called the Wineeva Hotel. And it was in Germantown. And her dream was to house single parents. And I helped her with a lot of the paperwork, the grant writing, and I'm going to be honest, everybody treated Reverend Olivia Sneed as though she was crazy. She had this great dream. She had purchased with her own funds this huge building, and yet she could not gather funding to get this building renovated. I tried to do some research about the Wineeva Hotel recently, and I believe what this city of Philadelphia has done is wiped away all evidence that the Wineeva Hotel ever existed in Germantown. And I wonder, did Olivia Sneed's descendants get anything for that property, from that property, or did the city just take it? That's something we got to look into. So it brings me to now, okay, the question of what are we doing now? What's the legacy of our community? We have seen initiatives, movements, programs, organizations come and go in our community. Very rarely does that elder successfully transfer the programs and institutions that they created to the younger people coming up. And I feel that frustration. I hesitate because I'm now 60 and I've had many successes in community development. And I struggle to find young people to pass on my work to. So I was one of those young people. I was a young person under many elders. I used to do a comic strip for Showcase magazine on Lancaster Avenue. Brother Malik Muhammad was the head of the Lancaster Avenue Business Association, and he used to put out a community newspaper called Showcase. And his face is on the side of his building, which is dilapidated and empty. And I started working with him when I was 12 years old. I started volunteering. I used to catch the trolley. I believe it went from Lansdowne Avenue or Girard Avenue to Lancaster Avenue. And every Saturday, I would work in his shop. And here I am, 60 years old, looking at the works of Brother Malik Muhammad, or I believe he became an imam later in life. And it's just an empty, dilapidated building with his picture on the side of it. Many young people came through his shop, and yet the institution, the organization, the asset to the community that he created was not passed on. What is our problem? What is our problem? So